ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Maiduguri. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. President of the Alliance of Sahel States announces major plans, including biometric passport for member states.
We are now working to strengthen our economic and social integration by facilitating the movement of goods, services and people. The creation of an investment bank and a stabilization fund is underway.
Guinean government begins compensation of victims of expulsions under former regimes. UN pledges support for survivors of the Maiduguri flood in northeast Nigeria that displaced more than 400,000 people.
Is that we continue to step up the work related to the rescue and saving life of those people as we respond to the immediate need.
And a disturbing report by West African Epidemiological Network reveals an alarming rise in cannabis and opioid use among youth in the sub-region. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. This Monday, September 16, marks the first anniversary of the creation of the Alliance of Sahel States, which later evolved into a confederation. On this occasion, the current president of the AES, Colonel Assimi Goïta, highlighted the organization's achievements in the fight against terrorism. He also announced plans for the establishment of an investment bank and the introduction of a biometric passport across the AES region. Nadidi Tete has more details in this report.
In his address to the people of the three member states, Colonel Assimi Goïta expressed satisfaction with the progress made by the AES armed forces in combating terrorism. According to Goïta, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger will continue to join forces to stabilize the region.
Thanks to this strategic alliance, our defense and security forces have achieved significant victories on the grounds, effectively weakening armed and terrorist groups. We continue the fight against all forms of extremism to safeguard the integrity of our territory and our sovereignty.
Since officially becoming the Confederation of Sahel States on July 6, the three nations are now focusing on economic growth through the creation of an investment bank and a stability fund. The introduction of a biometric passport within the region was also announced.
We are now working to strengthen our economic and social integration by facilitating the movement of goods, services and people. The creation of an investment bank and a stabilization fund is underway. Additionally, efforts are being made to introduce a biometric passport system within the AES framework to standardize travel documents, improve common space facilities and enhance the mobility of our citizens globally.
Colonel Assimi Goïta reaffirmed that the AES remains open to partnerships that uphold the principles of non-interference and respects the sovereignty of the Central Sahel nations.
Now, today with that details of the details by my co-correspondent report, Aliu Chan. Now, Ghana's Electoral Commission (EC) has been called upon to immediately restore the trust of stakeholders ahead of the upcoming December elections. The African Union High Representative for silencing the guns, Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, made the call following concerns raised by the opposition National Democratic Congress (NDC) and other groups over irregularities. The NDC is set to embark on a nationwide protest on Tuesday, September 17, to pressure the Electoral Commission to address some of the irregularities such as the discrepancies in the voter register, among other issues. From Accra, Christopher Teacher report.
Speaking at the inaugural diplomatic honors ceremony in Accra, African Union High Representative for Silencing the Guns, Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, highlighted the importance of transparency in the electoral process. Dr. Ibn Chambers stated, among others, that ensuring the publication of polling stations' results on the Electoral Commission's website would significantly enhance the credibility and transparency of the process. His admonishment to the Electoral Commission comes at the time the election referee has opposed demands by the main opposition party, the NDC, for a forensic audit of the voter register, despite some analysts and CSOs backing the call. Meanwhile, the opposition party is preparing to stage demonstrations against the EC on Tuesday to pile pressure on the EC to make way for an independent audit to ensure a clean and credible voter register. Here is former President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC flag bearer.
It won't take more than 2 weeks to finish a proper audit of the register. And that's why we're saying the EC should accept, form an independent committee, let it go into the register, accept all our complaints, clean up the register, let us all be satisfied, and then we move on. That is our demand. And so on the 17th, everybody is joining and marching to the EC to demonstrate and put pressure on the EC to get up and do its job. That's what we want.
With a resolute EC confident of what it labels as a robust register, will pressure from civil society organizations and the opposition NDC lead to a change? For WADR, Christopher Ticho, Accra, Ghana.
The Guinean government on Sunday handed over land to thousands of victims of evictions that occurred in Conakry under the former regimes. This is to repair injustices suffered by the population for more than 25 years. Abdullah Hassan has more details in this report.
The associations representing the victims received the title deeds for 258 hectares in Wankifon, some 60 kilometers from Conakry. The land will be managed by the state-owned company Sonapi, which will be responsible for developing the site and rehousing the victims. Memuna Lori Mabari, the general director of Sonapi, said it is taking a concrete step towards healing the wounds of the past of 2,683 households while laying the foundations for a shared future. For the victims' spokesperson, Sambaso, the return of land to the victims symbolizes the reparation of an injustice for those evicted in 1998 and those in 2019. General Amara Kamara, a spokesman for the junta who participated in the ceremony, said the president is resolutely committed to drying the tears of all the sons of the country. According to Human Rights Watch, between February and May 2019, the government of former President Alpha Condé forcibly displaced more than 20,000 people in Conakry, the nation's capital, under the pretext that the land belonged to the state and will be used for official construction. A previous demolition operation in the same neighborhoods took place in 1998 under President Lassana Conté.
Abdullah Hassan filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
And to some sad news coming in from Benin, 2 police officers were killed in an ambush in Kompa, a northern area in the commune of Karimama on Sunday. The victims, identified as Sub-Brigadier S. Hunge and Second-Class Agent Kora, were attacked while patrolling the region. No official statement has been released regarding the details of the assault. Karimama, known for intense terrorist activity, has seen an uptick in violence. A previous attack in July 2024 in Pac W, across a border area between Benin, Burkina Faso and Niger, resulted in the death of several soldiers. Since 2021, Benin has increasingly been targeted by violent groups. In response, Beninese authorities, in collaboration with the army, have intensified efforts to contain the growing threat of terrorism, conducting regular operations to protect the population and curb the spread of these armed groups. In Nigeria, the United Nations has pledged to support the survivors of the devastating flood that hit Maiduguri, Borno State, northeast Nigeria, killing over 30 people and displacing 414,000 others. The UN resident and humanitarian coordinator for Nigeria, Mohammed Malik Fall, made the commitment during a courtesy visit to Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum at the Government House in Maiduguri. The WD House Usman Marin Abuja has more details.
The flood, which was triggered by heavy rainfall and overflow of the Alau Dam, a main water source in the state, has left a trail of destruction in its wake, with thousands of homes submerged and livelihoods ruined. At a press conference, Mr. Fall enumerated the interventions by the United Nations in the last 5 days and pledged more towards rescue and resettling survivors.
Is that we continue to step up the work related to the rescue and saving life of those people as we respond to the immediate need of those those that have already been rescued or that have been already relocated to safer places. That's the kind of twofold response that UN is working on.
Governor Zulum appreciated the UN's support, stating that the state government is doing its best to provide aid to the affected persons but needs assistance to cope with the magnitude of the disaster.
With your support, we can do this together, bounce back and get back on track towards achieving the durable solutions for internal displacement and our 25 years development plan and 10 years transformation initiatives. But most importantly, how can we mitigate climate actions that will forestall future occurrences? Working with the UN family is something that we need to work with you.
The UN's support will focus on providing shelter, food, and non-food items to the displaced persons, as well as assisting in the rehabilitation of infrastructure damaged by the flood. The humanitarian community is working closely with the state government to assess the needs of the affected persons and provide targeted support. The Maiduguri flood is one of the worst disasters to hit the region in recent times, and the UN's support is crucial in helping survivors rebuild their lives. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, petrol price across Nigeria again has been increased the second time in 2 weeks by the state oil firm NNPC Limited on Monday by 11%, and a day after it started purchasing the fuel from the giant Dangote oil refinery on the outskirts of Lagos. Nigeria expects the 650,000 barrels per day refinery to end years of import of gasoline, which has been subsidized for decades until President Bola Tinubu began removing support when he took over in May last year. The price of petrol is a sensitive issue in Nigeria because many households and small businesses use it to power generators because the majority of citizens are not connected to the national electricity grid. On Monday, NNPC said it had increased the price from 858 naira, about 53 cents a litre, to 950 naira in Lagos and as high as 1,019 naira in northeastern states. It said it buys the petrol at 898 naira per litre from the refinery. However, this latest move has been criticized by stakeholders and is likely to add to public anger as Nigerians are already struggling with inflation of 33.4%. John Kekeocha is a welfare officer of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria.
Dangote is not a Nigerian company. It's an individual company. And therefore, if he buys product or food from NNPC and produces, he has to produce and sell and to make gain. Nigeria, NNPCL is only buying from them as an off-taker. And if they buy from Dangote, they have the advantage of immediate source of supply, which is better than importing product from outside Nigeria, which has to bear with logistics of transport and so on and so forth. So it's assumed that Dangote product should relatively be cheaper. So it does not mean that Dangote is refining and is going to give Nigerians a very cheap price. It has to still sell to make gain. And if NNPCL, which is the only entity that is buying the PMS from Dangote, is buying it because he wants to ensure that the market price of the fuel is brought at reasonably for Nigerians, vis-a-vis the one they used to import before. The product we are going to get from Dangote cannot be cannot be costlier than the one imported because we have advantage of supply logistics. If the one we are going to get from the one we are going to import from abroad is going to be cheaper, then there is no need celebrating Dangote's refinery production.
John Kekeocha is a welfare officer of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. Now, military officials in Liberia have concluded a 2-day roundtable discussion aimed at enhancing transparency, reforming and professionalizing the armed forces of Liberia. Speaking at the closing of the forum over the weekend, Defense Minister, retired Brigadier General Geraldine George, said the discussion was intended to strengthen the various departments within the Ministry of National Defense and the Armed Forces of Liberia. She reaffirmed her administration's commitment towards building a system that is more efficient, clear and strong to meet the growing challenges and threats in the sub-region.
Our goal is to protect Liberia from external and internal danger, take care of our soldiers and their family, and maintain our country in integrity. Strengthening defense governance and reform processes is not merely about enhancing our capabilities. It It is also about ensuring our defense structures are agile, responsive, and sustainable. It involves rethinking and reforming our strategies, and that is why this workshop is about. And improving our oversight mechanism and reinforcing our commitment to transparency and accountability. We need to rethink and improve our strategies, make sure that we are overseeing things well, and show that we are being transparent and accountable. As we move along this path, we must be certain that our work towards what is important in our country and follow the best way of doing things around the world.
That was Liberia's Defense Minister, retired Brigadier General Geraldine George. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and on our partner stations across the sub-region. Here is a reminder of our top stories. The President of the Alliance of Sahel State, Goita, announces major plans, including biometric passport for member states. Guinean government begins compensation of victims of expulsions under former regimes. UN pledges support for survivors of the Maiduguri flood in northeast Nigeria that displaced more than 400,000 people. And still ahead in the news, a disturbing report by West African Epidemiological Network reveals an alarming rise in cannabis and opioid use among youth in the sub-region. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
We're streaming live on wadr.org, YouTube, and Facebook. The latest report by the West African Epidemiological Network on drug use, WENDU, has revealed that the sub-region is grappling with a growing drug crisis. The report released in September 2024 reveals a disturbing increase in the consumption of cannabis, kush, and opioids, particularly among young people aged 15 to 44. Echatiso has more details of this report.
The comprehensive study, based on data from 11 countries, indicates that cannabis remains the most widely used substance in the region, accounting for 28% of treatment cases. Alcohol follows at 11.78%, while pharmaceutical opioids represents 9.2% of cases. The emergence of kush, a potent cannabis derivative mixed with synthetic substances, has raised significant concerns, especially in countries like Senegal, Gambia, and Sierra Leone. In 2023, law enforcement agencies seized approximately 83,734 kilograms of drugs in West Africa, with cannabis making up 90% of total seizures. Notably, Senegal led the region in cocaine seizures, contributing 7,503 kilograms, or 95% of the total. However, these figures represent a sharp decline from the previous year, when 899,000 kilograms of drugs were confiscated. The report highlights that 73.4% of individuals receiving treatment for drug use disorders are aged between 15 and 44. Approximately 22,000 people sought treatment in 2023, but access to care remains uneven, while urban areas having a higher concentration of treatment facilities compared to rural regions. In light of these findings, WENDU has called for the establishment of more extensive prevention programs and the enhancement of healthcare infrastructure, particularly targeting young people and women who often face barriers to treatment. The report urges governments to intensify efforts against drug trafficking while advocating for alternatives to incarceration for individuals struggling with substance use disorders.
Echatiso reporting there. Still on surveys, the 2023 Social Institutions and Gender Index CK report survey says Côte d'Ivoire leads Africa with a score of 17.3. The report, presented by the Development Center of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, names Côte d'Ivoire as the top performer in combating discrimination against women and girls. The CK highlights national effort to address discrimination within families, violations of physical integrity, restricted access to productive and financial resources, and infringements on freedoms. Ogabirika completes the story.
The 2023 Social Institutions and Gender Index (SIGI) report reveals that Côte d'Ivoire, with its score of 17.3, outperforms Rwanda and South Africa in the fight against discrimination towards girls and women, two countries known for their significant efforts in this area. This result positions Côte d'Ivoire among the top 55 countries globally. Here is the chair of the SIGI 2023 Advisory Group, Euphrates Yao.
The progress and achievements in promoting equal opportunities between women and men, as well as between girls and boys, have greatly benefited our nation, positioning it at the forefront of African countries.
Ivorian authorities are proud of this achievement, which underscores Côte d'Ivoire's leadership in addressing discrimination against girls and women. The Ivorian Prime Minister Robert Bogre Mambe also had this to say.
La Côte d'Ivoire a fait de l'égalité du genre.
Côte d'Ivoire has made gender equality a top priority. The government's key objectives in this area aligns with the President's 2030 vision and contribute to the broader global goal of achieving Sustainable Development Goal 5 to promote gender equality and empower all women and girls.
The SIGI serves as a global benchmark for analyzing formal and informal laws, social norms, and practices that restrict the rights of women and girls.
Ogebierika found the report sent in by our Abidjan correspondent Albin Adi.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, we'll join us from Amari in Abuja for the newspaper review.
This is the press review segment from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We begin the day with Daily News Hub. Daily News Hub is leading with this story. As trucks begin lifting of petrol, NNPCL, that is Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Dangote at loggerheads over pricing with the riders. We bought fuel from Dangote at 898 naira per litre, not 760 naira, NNPCL is saying. Dangote Group fires back, says NNPCL's claims misleading, mischievous, malicious. This is the outcome of two statements yesterday, one from the Nigerian National Oil Company, that is NNPC Limited, and Dangote Refinery, that is the new boy in town with respect to oil production, local oil refining. Dangote Refinery has been awaited by Nigerians and other West African countries for a long time. And finally, yesterday, trucks, about 70 trucks of the NNPC, they were said to have loaded petrol from the refinery. But shortly after that, the company released a statement saying that they bought fuel at 898 naira per litre, which means that if they are to sell, they will have to sell above that, justifying the current, telling Nigerians that the current increase in fuel price has come to stay. But shortly after that also, the refinery also released a statement saying that they never sold fuel to NNPC at that amount of naira because they actually sold petrol to NNPC in US dollars. This also goes against what we are told by the federal government, that oil business will now be done in naira in order to strengthen the local currency. Let's go to the Blueprint newspaper that is leading with this story. As UN team arrives Maiduguri, Nigerian Air Force begins airlift of relief materials for flood victims. With a rider, Nigeria Correctional Service identifies 281 missing inmates. Yobe, Buni donate 150 million naira. These stories also, reappear in all major newspapers in Nigeria, and that's why we have to draw the curtains on today's edition of the Press Review. It's back to you in the studios.
Many thanks, Usman Mara in Abuja with the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, this segment takes us back to Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, northeast Nigeria, where hundreds of thousands of people are currently due to a devastating flood triggered by the collapse of a dam last week. Since then, UN agencies such as the Welfare Program have been rushing to assist scores of displaced people in the northeastern state grappling with a 15-year Boko Haram insurgency, climate change, and recent inflation. Emmanuel Bigenimana, the head of WFP's office in Maiduguri, tells WDL of his agency's response effort in collaboration with the state government and partners.
Definitely, we are all putting our hands together to intensify efforts to provide a response. We are complementing the government response. The government is in the lead. And as UN agencies, we are also supporting together with our NGO partners. So WFP have been able to open soup kitchens within 24 hours to provide hot meals to the people, but also other partners, UN agencies, UNICEF, also providing support to the children and also to other vulnerable communities in terms of nutrition, in terms of medication and other services. So we are all together on this response, but the need is great. So there is a need really to scale up quickly so that we can really avert the catastrophe.
How many people is WFP able to cater for through the soup kitchen you talked about?
We have reached 50,000 people, but we are scaling up. Basically, soup kitchens are being set up across the camps and also cooking day and night. So we are scaling up because the number of the people affected are many, but also there are some other volunteer organizations, the government, who are also providing the meals and other basic services to the affected people.
Can you help us understand what soup kitchen is? Because technically speaking, it will mean that you only prepare soup for people who require good nutrition, but just let us know if it's something different that WFP refers to soup kitchen in this context.
No, we are providing actually a complete and a healthy meal. In these kitchens, we are providing a fortified rice, which is nutritious with some more complements that are really needed for the people who are affected. So it includes rice, it includes pulses, it includes vegetable oil, and also other ingredients. So it's a complete healthy meal that we are providing. We are trying to provide 2 meals per day, and we are scaling up to reach the maximum of the people that are affected.
Talk about scaling up. How long do you think it will take Maiduguri to recover from this disaster, which by then WFP will be ready to at least withdraw its services? How long will it take?
I don't expect the people who are affected, the dispersed persons, to return very soon to their respective homes. It will take time to return to normalcy, and recovery will take long because markets have been affected, infrastructure have been destroyed, so it's going to take very long to recover, and it's really a situation that is not.
Emmanuel Bigini Mama is the head of the World Food Programme's office in Borno State, northeast Nigeria. And there is Sport with Sankle Janko.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Nigerian outfit Enugu Rangers played host to Sagrada Esperance of Angola, whom they edged 1-0 courtesy of a late strike by Kazuem Ogunyeli in the 78th minute. The slender victory gives hope to the Nigerians ahead of what is expected to be an even tougher return leg in Angola next weekend, according to CAF official website. Up north, Monastir welcomed Algerian side MC Alger to Tunisia in what was a closely contested encounter. Despite starting off as the better side, the visitors unfortunately conceded an own goal by Ayub Ghazli, which was the only goal of the match ahead of next weekend's return leg. Elsewhere, Burkina Faso side Association Sportive de Douane output an impressive showing when they edged Algeria's CR Belouizdad by 1-0. And reigning champions Al Ahly returned with an emphatic 3-0 victory over Kenya's Gor Mahia in Nairobi. The result sees the Egyptian side makes a strong start to their campaign as they aim to defend their continental crown and add another CAF Champions League title to their storied history. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And that's it on this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Christian Mukudi and Maldiju for the technical support. Connect with us on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, at WADR News. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship health program, Well Buddy with Ogibirika, focusing on osteoarthritis. I am Imo Eden. Good afternoon.